The night was dark, and rain poured down like a waterfall from the heavens. I was alone in my old, trusty car, driving on a winding, deserted road that seemed to stretch into eternity. The rain drummed on the roof of the car, creating a hypnotic rhythm that matched the pounding of my heart. I had always loved a good thrill, but this was different. This was a journey into the unknown. My headlights cut through the inky blackness, illuminating the road ahead. The only source of light in this desolate stretch was the faint glow of my car's headlights, casting eerie shadows on the trees that lined the road. The wind howled through the branches, making them sway like menacing specters. As I drove deeper into the heart of the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It was as if unseen eyes followed my every move, and an icy chill ran down my spine. I turned up the radio to drown out my unease, but the crackling sound of an old blues station did little to ease my nerves. Time seemed to stretch and warp as I continued down the road. The minutes felt like hours, and I couldn't shake the nagging sensation that something was terribly wrong. Just when I was about to turn back, a faint glimmer of light appeared in the distance. Relief washed over me as I approached what appeared to be a small, run-down gas station. The place looked abandoned, but the dim light above the pump still flickered with life. I pulled in, the tires of my car splashing through puddles as I came to a stop next to an old, rusted pump. I turned off the engine and stepped out of the car, the rain soaking me to the bone. The gas station's entrance door creaked open with a spine-chilling groan, and I cautiously stepped inside. The air inside was thick with the musty scent of old newspapers and motor oil. Shelves lined with dusty snacks and canned goods filled the walls, and a flickering fluorescent light buzzed overhead. But what caught my attention was the figure behind the counter. An elderly man stood there, hunched and with wild gray hair. He wore a tattered brown jacket that seemed to blend in with the gloom of the store. His cloudy, pale eyes locked onto mine as he spoke.
"Evening, stranger. Storm's a real doozy, ain't it?"
I nodded, still trying to shake off the unease that had settled over me. "Yeah, it came out of nowhere. I'm just looking for some shelter until it passes." The old man's lips curled into a twisted grin, revealing a row of yellowed teeth.
"You're in luck, friend. We're always open, rain or shine."
I thanked him and decided to grab a snack while I waited. As I perused the shelves, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the place. The items on the shelves seemed ancient, covered in layers of dust, and the faint smell of decay hung in the air. I made my way to the counter with a bag of chips and a soda, trying to ignore the old man's unsettling gaze. He rang up my purchase, and I handed over some crumpled bills.
"Be careful out there. These woods, they ain't safe at night."
I forced a smile and stepped back out into the rain, determined to get back on the road as soon as possible. But as I approached my car, a gut-wrenching feeling of dread washed over me. The headlights were off, and the engine refused to start. Panic set in as I frantically tried to restart the car, but it was no use. I yelled, "Come on! Come on!" I was stranded in the middle of nowhere, alone in the darkness. With my car refusing to start, panic gripped me like a vice. The relentless rain continued to pour down, soaking me to the bone as I futilely attempted to restart the engine. Each turn of the key only resulted in a series of futile clicks. I looked around in despair, realizing that I was trapped in this eerie, abandoned gas station, with no help in sight. The night had grown even darker, and the ominous shadows of the surrounding trees seemed to close in on me. As I grappled with my predicament, I decided to return to the gas station and ask the old man for assistance. The door creaked open once more, and I entered the dimly lit interior, my clothes dripping with rainwater. The old man stood behind the counter, his pale eyes fixed on me as if he had been expecting my return.
"Car trouble?"
I nodded, my frustration mounting. "Yeah, it won't start. Do you have any suggestions?" The old man's lips curled into that twisted grin once more.
"You're not the first to get stuck out here, you know. This place, it's cursed, some say."
His words sent shivers down my spine, but I dismissed them as the ramblings of a delusional old man. "Cursed? Come on, there must be something you can do to help." Before he could respond, a deafening burst of thunder shook the gas station, causing the lights to flicker and the shelves to rattle. The old man's fear-stricken eyes widened, and he grabbed my arm with surprising strength.
"They're coming. You must hide, and whatever you do, don't let them see you."
With that, he led me to a small hidden room at the back of the store, his trembling hand pushing open a creaky door. I stepped inside, and he closed the door behind me, leaving me in complete darkness. Alone in the cramped space, I strained my ears to listen. Outside, I could hear strange, otherworldly noises, whispers in the wind, eerie laughter, and the rustling of unseen creatures. The storm outside had intensified, adding to the cacophony of sound. Time passed agonizingly slowly, and I fought to stay awake, my heart pounding in my chest. I had no idea what I was hiding from, or what the old man had meant by them, but the sense of impending danger was palpable. Just as I was starting to doze off, I heard it, a sinister, guttural growl coming from somewhere in the darkness of the gas station. It was followed by shuffling footsteps and the sound of something scraping against the walls. I held my breath, my heart in my throat, as I listened to the horrifying sounds outside the door. Whatever was out there, it was not human, and it was closing in on me. The night felt endless, the minutes dragging on like hours as I clung to my hiding spot, praying for morning to arrive. But as the hours passed, I couldn't escape the feeling that I was not alone in that small room. As I crouched in the darkness, the feeling of being watched grew more intense. Every creak, every rustle sent shivers down my spine. I strained my ears to pick up any clues about what was happening outside the door. The noises continued, and I could hear guttural whispers, as if malevolent voices were plotting just beyond my hiding place. My mind raced with fear and confusion. Who or what were these creatures, and why had the old man hidden me away? Suddenly, the door to the room creaked open ever so slightly, and a sliver of dim light spilled in from the gas station. I held my breath, praying that whatever was on the other side wouldn't see me. Through the crack in the door, I saw them. They were tall, hunched figures with long, gnarled limbs and pale, sickly skin. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and their mouths were filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink as they entered the room, their movements slow and deliberate. They seemed to be searching for something, or someone. One of the creatures, its breath rattling like a death rattle, passed dangerously close to my hiding spot. I pressed my hand to my mouth, trying to stifle the panicked breaths that threatened to escape. My heart pounded so loudly that I was sure they could hear it. As the creatures moved about the room, I noticed that they left a sickly, foul odor in their wake, like decay and rot. I fought the urge to gag and retched silently into my hand. Time passed agonizingly slowly, and I prayed for morning to arrive, to end this nightmare. But it seemed like an eternity before the creatures finally left the room, their malevolent presence gradually fading. With trembling limbs, I cautiously emerged from my hiding place, my heart still racing. The gas station was silent once more, and the dim light above the pumps had stopped flickering. The storm outside had subsided, leaving behind an eerie calm. I had no idea what had just transpired, or why those creatures had spared me. But one thing was certain: I needed to find a way out of this cursed place. I approached the counter, where the old man had been, but he was nowhere to be found. The store felt abandoned, as if it had never been occupied. I wondered if the old man had been a part of the same eerie phenomenon that had brought those creatures to life. With no other options, I ventured back outside, my car still lifeless beside the rusted pump. But as I stood there, a glimmer of hope emerged on the horizon, the first light of dawn. The creatures had retreated with the darkness, leaving me with a chance to escape. I hurriedly checked my car, praying that it would start this time. To my relief, the engine roared to life, and I wasted no time in putting distance between myself and that accursed gas station. As I drove away, the horrors of that night still fresh in my mind, I couldn't help but wonder about the old man and the creatures that had haunted me. I may never know the truth of what I had encountered, but one thing was certain: I would never forget that night, and I would never drive alone on dark, deserted roads again. And so, as the sun rose on a new day, I left behind the darkness and the horrors of that cursed place, determined to put the nightmare behind me and find my way back to the safety of the world I knew.